assessment. So today we're going to be talking about and exploring more ideas about program assessment, as well as clarify and review how different data points can be used to continuously improve programs. Please keep in mind that this session is being recorded. So afterwards, we will have a link to everybody so that you can revisit the content as well as who's not present today. Without further ado, Dr. Lexer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Hi, hello. You guys are excited about CTD? Okay, good stuff. Yes, I'm Sherell. I'm the Director of Institutional Effectiveness, and I work in the Office of Strategic Planning and Assessment with Manjashri Shankaranayana, our IT analyst. She works in strategic planning and assessment as well. Real quick, housekeeping, please, for attendance purposes, if you would scan that QR code, we greatly appreciate it. That will allow us to send you the slides. We definitely want to do that. Okay. Also, special mention of two folks really like VIP here is Ann Amos. And I don't know if you know Ann Amos, she is the dean over at Kingwood. And Rob Radokovich, I don't know if he's going to be able to make it or not, but we served together on the PLO Assessment Taskforce over the summer. If you were on that task force, can you raise your hand? Yeah, raise your hand if you're like, here's how we on the task force. Yeah, and so we worked collaboratively over the summer on a 2-year assessment cycle, and we really brainstormed a lot of alternative assessment methods and looked at what's working and what's not working. So before we get started with the session today, Ian, did you want to say something before you come up? No, real quick? Okay. So promoting continuous improvement by demystifying program assessment. That's a mouthful, right? But one of the things is we're focused on how can we continuously make program assessment better, and how can we really take the mystery out of program assessment? How can we clarify? How can we make it easier? And hopefully from this session today, you'll get a lot more insight on the process. So one of the things that we see as like a competing two schools of thoughts that are competing a lot of the times are, let's see how we can, there we go. Two schools of thought that are really competing a lot are we using assessment for continuous improvement, or are we using it for accountability to our stakeholders? Right? Why are we doing this assessment? So the question is, let's see if we can, I think we've got the freeze go. There we go. There we go. So the idea is, and I'll ask that to you guys, should we be doing assessment for continuous improvement, or should we be doing assessment for our stakeholders? Okay, Dr. Britton said both. He said both. Okay, anybody different opinion? Right, that's absolutely correct. So we should be doing assessment for accountability to our stakeholders and continuously improving. But these two schools of thought, they often compete, right? And I will tell you that the most important aspect in higher education is student learning. And how do we know if students are learning if we're not assessing how they're learning? Right? So although we have these two schools of thought, one of the most important things is that we have to assess our students, right? That's how we know and we evaluate of what's working and what's not working. Yeah, thank you. So over the summer, again, we had a PLO Assessment Taskforce. We had 38 members on the task force, and Rob has made it in. Welcome. Rob Radokovich, she served on the task force as well and helped to chair, and machine faculty on the workforce side. And really interesting. A lot of great work came out of the task force over the summer. We did probe the task force members, and we asked them, how effective do you think curriculum teams are in assessing at LSC? And what did they say? Somewhat effective. 54% said we're somewhat effective in assessing our programs at Lone Star, right? Meaning that there's some opportunities for us to improve in this area. And then 15% said very effective. Okay, and then you see 19% neither effective nor ineffective. So definitely some opportunities for us to look at how we assess our programs. Of course, we have around 88 disciplines, but over 200 programs. If you look at on the academic workforce side, our certificates included, that's a lot of programs, right? And so it's really vital that we're looking at the health of these programs and ensuring that they really meet the industry standard, right? One of the other questions that we asked, one of the other questions that we asked is which of the following would enhance program assessment at LSC? And when we were working on the task force, that was one of the things that Ann Amos that she talked about. She said, "Sherell, I'm joining this task force, but I just want to be honest, it's a lot, I need a better understanding, right?" And so 74% said we need to have a better understanding of the overall process. And then 44% said additional training opportunities around program assessment. So this is how we were able to really get to where we are today, right? You're talking about the 2-year assessment cycle that we're going to move to, starting this new academic year. Thanks, Sheree, for helping me out there.
Yes.
So what you're looking at is 2 images here. One on the workforce program development side is 9 steps in the process. So when a new program comes on board on the workforce side, there's market research, right? Industry research. What does the community need? A lot of different things are happening to determine what do we need to do to offer this program. Of course, think about the technology that has to be purchased. Faculty, equipment, all of those things. So 9 steps on the workforce side, and then on the curriculum management side, you see the 6 steps there, right? And then think about the approval of Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board, of course, our accreditor. The reason why this is important to know is because we're talking about program assessment and demystifying all of these things around program assessment. When a new program comes on board at Lone Star College, a lot of work, a lot of thought goes into that process of bringing on a new program. And so if all of this work is going on behind the scenes, of course, it's so important that we also think about how we're actually assessing the health of the program, right? Yeah, and so then here, what you're looking at is just really a good point is the new funding model. That's what everybody's talking about, where there's funding that's actually tied to our programs. And then what about the 60 by 30 plan or building a talent strong Texas, right? And so when you think about these different metrics or different data points, the state of Texas is going to be looking at credentials of value, post-secondary degrees, increase in employment rates. So these different data points are going to be important to how we assess our programs. And then also think about Aspen, right? The chancellor has talked about Aspen and us reaching for Aspen. And guess what? Some of the same metrics that the state is looking at, Aspen would like to see as well, right? In their Excellence for Community Colleges Award. And they're looking at graduation rates, employment, completion, all of those things. And so even though we report out institutionally on all of these things, I believe that we need to empower faculty members to go in and to have access to this data around graduation rates, program retention, course success rates, all of those different things. So for where, yeah, that's fine. So for where we're trying to go, it's really important that we think about all of these different data points. Now, I'm on a call with the gentleman. I'm not going to say his name, but he was talking about. I was talking about PLOs, and he was talking about PLA, and we were talking for 10 minutes about 2 different things. And then he said, "Yeah, we got to do something about these PLAs." And it was like, I'm talking about PLOs. And so we laughed and we chuckled. So I don't want to assume that in the room, I don't want to assume that everyone in here, come on in, I don't want to assume that you know what learning outcomes are, right? So tied to our standard 8.2a, program learning outcomes, these are the established skills that we're expecting that students, that they know, right? What they're able to do after they completed the degree program. What skills should they have, right? Really important here because there's an expectation that when Lone Star College sends students out into the community, that they're prepared. And the program learning outcomes allow us to be able to see where there are gaps or opportunities for our students. So when we look here, one of the things that is important, this is pharmacy technology, the pharmacy technology, and welcome. This is the pharmacy technology program, which has 3 PLOs. Okay, and when you look here at their program learning outcome statements, you see that, but then you also see the ways to assess. The ways to assess the program. And this is the meat and potatoes here. There are many, many ways that we can assess our programs. And I can tell you, for the most part, we've been doing a lot of student learning outcomes. Okay, that's how we assess our programs. That's how we assess the health of our programs, right, mostly. And also on our forms, we have indirect ways that we can assess. What I believe is that we have to really empower faculty members to look at other ways to assess their programs. Why? Because if you oversee a program, should you not know the transfer rates? Should you not know how many students graduated from your program? Right? And that starts at the faculty level. The faculty and students are stakeholders, right? The faculty should be empowered to go and get these different data points around their programs. And why is it important? Well, here we go again, credentials and value, attainment of post-secondary degrees, increase in employment rates. These are the different data points. Aspen, the state of Texas with the new funding model, they're going to want to see these things. So what we're trying to do, and Anne's going to come talk about this in a moment, but what we're trying to do is really open up opportunities for faculty to assess their programs in many different ways so that they have comprehensive inquiry around their programs. Okay? Any questions about this? And look at that list of all different things, retention rates, right? Licensure rates for those programs on the workforce side, externships, interviews, course success rates. You know, all of these are different metrics, different data points where a faculty member, if you don't know how to get this data around your program, we want to empower you. We want to teach you. We want to show you. We have access to Power BI. We have a lot of tools that faculty have access to that's free for you to go out and get this data around your program. Because I can tell you for where we're trying to go, it's going to be important that we start at the ground level, right, with faculty being empowered to get this information. All right. So what makes program assessment effective? Right? What makes program, because we're trying to demystify program assessment, we're trying to take out the mystery around it, but what makes it effective? Right? Anybody? Anybody? It seems like a hard question, but think about it. What makes program assessment effective? Think about that. Okay, outcomes. She said outcomes. That's yeah, say that a little bit louder.
When you use the data, the information from the assessment to be changes to the program or it's decision making.
Right. It should be in the closing the loop, right? Closing the loop, the recommendations, the final results of the implementation.
Assessment. That information back to the public so that
right, so it's similar in that we're using that data, making sense of that data, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I would say
Ensuring that you have the right metrics.
Okay, very good. Oh my goodness. He said at making sure you've got the right metrics. The right metrics. It's Rob?
Yeah, I just want to mention when closing the loop, this is important that we both know. Don't leave that recommendation blank. We have it set up now, where they have to put something in there.
Right, well, they should be.
Well,
Yeah.
for the past years, you know, and I know, everybody leaves it blank. So in the recommendation area, type in something, you know, some type of recommendation. Well, maybe we should assess 90% instead of 80% or something, you know.
Yes.
Any recommendation?
Please don't put NA. That's what we recommend. That is our recommendation. Don't put NA.
Right, but all of you are kind of saying the same thing in different ways, right? When we think about program assessment and what makes it effective, right? And what makes it effective is when we have good assessment design. We have good assessment design. So effective feedback, that's what you were saying. It's like when you're actually using the results, right? And you're making it to make it better. Assessment design, the metrics, right? What kind of assessment metrics are you using? You know, how are you designing the assessment that you're going to use in the classroom? Are you using rubrics? How are you assessing student learning? And so a lot of thought should go into assessment design, right? And then, of course, it's got to serve student learning. It's got to serve student learning, meaning that we're using all of those results to make things better for the students. That's why we're here, for students and to ensure that they are learning, right? Also, what makes program assessment effective is if it's authentic, right? If it's authentic and it needs to fit the scale or the purpose. So we're not asking students to go to space, right? It's got to fit for whatever it is. When we think about, I think they were talking about that this morning, you know, our academic ACGM, they were talking about WECM, which is also the manuals that we use. So we have to stay within our framework as well, right? When we're thinking about assessment methods. All right? And so now at this time, I think we're preparing for the next piece. Yes. And so, so Ian Amos, once again, I just want to reiterate, Ann and Rob, they served on the PLO Assessment Taskforce over the summer. We had 38 members, and she's my partner in crime. She really helps me to move the dial forward. So I'm excited that they're both here, and she's going to actually talk about the 2-year assessment cycle. So please ask questions if you have questions around the cycle, the new cycle.
Sure. I'm happy that I see two of my folks that visited. Bill, thank you for stopping by. And what was your first name? Yeah, very nice of you to stop by too. And I'm going to have to head out.
Oh, thank
I
you.
just wanted to let you know.
Thanks, Rob.
Okay.
And you guys give Rob a hand. He served throughout the course.
Right there, the standing ovation is right there. Those two ladies right there.
Okay.
Gee.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
okay,
you.
you all be safe. Okay. I'll talk to you later, Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Bye-bye.
My name is Ann Amos. I think I talked to most of you in here. Of course, I know these two folks from the Kingwood campus, but I work at Kingwood. I'm an academic dean. I have English and some other fine arts and communication languages in my division. And I realized, like, when my curriculum teams were being asked to do this last year, they were looking to me for guidance, and I didn't really understand it. I've been here at Lone Star for many years, so I remember when we, we got used to the SLO process, and that took a while, but now thankfully we're used to it. So I wanted, when Sherell extended an invitation in May, like, hey, I'm going to have this task force, maybe, I just need to jump in and really get to learn this from the inside out. So I have learned a tremendous amount in the last 5 months. But after visiting 4 different curriculum teams today, I realized I have a lot more to learn because I got to ask all kinds of questions. My focus this next year will be continuing to support Sherell and reaching out to those of you who have academic
transfer programs. Rob, the document issue is just here. We'll be working with those of you at workforce. How many of you work with academic transfer? Or you're probably, is it AAS or a certificate? Yeah. How many of you have academic transfer? So Krista, I know you do. Yeah. Hi. The health and wellness folks have an academic transfer program. Where are you?
Workforce development.
Workforce development. Okay, I know this gentleman. I don't remember his name. Business.
Yes.
On the business team. So really, my goal is like understand it and how do we make this? How do we make this manageable? Like you said, authentic, simple, but meaningful. Because if faculty are doing something just to fill out a form, then that's not achieving any purpose. Academically, it's certainly not fulfilling personally. So we're pressing a restart this year. We're not scratching anything that's done before, but we're trying to simplify the process. And we've gotten approval to make this a 2-year cycle. So for program learning assessment, all the teams at this point, you know what your PLOs are. And some have as many as 5 or 6, some many have as few as 2 or 3. Okay. So the first year, what we've communicated to many teams this morning is we're asking each team to just choose 2. Let's start with 2 PLOs. They don't have to be your number 1 and number 2. They could be 3 and 4. That's what the teams were going to come together to decide. And then there are 2 forms that we shared with the teams, but I learned this morning we need more time to do that throughout the year. And one of them, what they're asked to do today, is to simply identify which PLOs they're going to be looking at for this next year. I'm sorry, hello, I recognize you all from Zoom, Casey and Cameron, good to see you. I should have let that door open.
Yes.
So this was the task today. Whether your workforce or academic transfer is to simply identify which 2 PLOs you're going to be working on this next year. There's a simple form that I like to think of as a cover page that the teams hopefully like in your team. You decided on the PLOs and you're going to enter that information into planning. Most academic transfer teams have taken the route of aligning their PLOs with their course or their I'm drawing a blank on what that's means. Student learning. Student. It's time to go bed. Student learning outcomes, right? You've done a crosswalk, and that is absolutely fine for this year. That's a direct measure. You're pulling data that you're already pulling at the course level. When we come back together here next year, whatever campus we're on, teams are going to cycle and present the next 2 PLOs or 3 PLOs, however many left you have. And we're going to encourage you to look at that point, having a year under your belt. Are there other ways? Are there other measures you can use? Workforce teams, you're accustomed to doing this. You're looking at licensure rates, and you may be already looking at transfer rates. It's probably easier for some of you to know who your cohort is. But if you're majoring in English, the English team, we have everybody takes English, so it's harder to pinpoint who those majors are. But hopefully this time next year, we're going to have more information on how to do that, and we'll be able to discuss different kinds of measures, not just going back to the SLOs, which as a faculty member who only thinks about this twice a year, which a lot of faculty do, it's confusing. And that's why I wanted to do this, because I get it mixed up. You know, if I'm looking at the same data for 2 different purposes, it's easy for me to get confused. So I'm excited, especially with the teams I work with more closely, to look at maybe there's some different kinds of measures. Can we use Power BI? Like, let's look at, who actually did transfer, to study English or biology or whatever. And can we look at their the combination of their grades before they left? Could we do an exit interview with them? Get some more qualitative kind of data. So that's nothing we have to decide today or even this year. We're going to be thinking about it next year. And then year 3, just in time for our SAC 5-year review, we'll already have 1 2-year cycle under our belts. We can present the lessons we've learned, make those recommendations that are going to be really relevant, and we start the cycle once again. We go back to the original PLOs that we assessed this year.
And I think that we should open it up now for questions, because this is the cat's meow. This is the sliced bread. This is the, cooking with Crisco, which is what my grandmother used to say. But I know you're not supposed to say that today, but that's what she said. And it was always a good thing when she said it. But I just want to say that this is the 2-year assessment cycle. We have how-to guides, and those links are in the CTD folders. But let's marinate here for just a moment and ask questions.
Yeah, Bill.
This is a really tough question. Where do you find
Where do you find the PLOs? So I have a document that Sherell gives that has all the different teams' PLOs.
It's on the
Is
website.
it on the website?
Yes, we have it. It's on the Strategic Planning and Assessment website. After this session, we'll get you the link and get you those manuals. So all the PLOs that we have are in our PLO manuals, and we have a manual for certs, and we have a manual for PLOs as well. So yes, we'll get those. And then there's some certs that don't have PLOs. Maybe you have them, but you haven't provided that to us.
We were looking at responding. None of the stuff that we have.
Yeah, and
You didn't have-
yeah, you would just email me and we would get that manual updated. Take no time to do that. Just get that to me. We'll talk offline. Or
So the second thing is that right now we're in kind of a transition. We have one foundation for robotics. Petroleum isn't going right. Signing up. So we have
So are you saying you have 2 programs, but one isn't going too well?
one note signed up.
Oh, you don't, no students enrolled.
yeah, so then you're not going to be, the idea is there's not an expectation there, right? It's just, we don't dictate, right? We want to work with you. And so if you don't have any students in the program, you can say, still marketing, trying to get additional students, tell your story. That's what we're asking you to do, right? We don't want you to, it's your story.
So just a question, so you're, for workforce, please do follow up. I know folks on workforce, you've been doing PLOs a lot longer than academic advancement programs. Robert Dokovich is gonna be your point person, or, Sherell. But in a case like that, this is just for my information, would they still need to fill out the form and say, cannot complete at this time because we don't have enrollment?
Yes,
I mean, you would still document on that instrument.
absolutely. And then I can work with you on that process.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a good question. Other questions? So essentially what Ann was talking about when we were talking about this 2-year assessment cycle, 2 years to assess your PLOs. First 2 in the first year, as she said, and then the remaining in the second year. One other form, gives them, Ann, you want to talk a little bit about this?
So this is just a different way to conceptualize what we're doing. If you're on the task force and you've seen these, but I'm finding with this stuff, like I need repeated exposure and more than just twice a year, more than just curriculum team days. So we have an example here on the workforce side. If a program has, this is pharmacy tech, has 3 PLOs. Year 1, they're going to be looking at these 2 courses to pull data from the student learning objectives from those 2 courses. In efforts to complete the information for the program learning assessment. So they're going to pull the student learning objectives. This is a direct measure. They're going directly into the classroom, right? And they're going to pull that data. Year 2, they're going to use a different form of measurement, and whichever one is most meaningful, is the simplest, that fits your program, all those criteria that Sherell talked about, you could choose, and that should be a discussion in your curriculum team, right? We've got an externship, or we've got an exit exam check. And I was telling a team this morning, like, go simple, like don't do 7 of them. If there's one that can give you the information you need, start small. So that is on the workforce side, and I believe y'all are accustomed to doing these kinds of things already. For the academic, for English, for some of us that aren't used to this, we went ahead and kind of tried to conceptualize it in a similar way. So if we're looking at English, for example, for the first year, we're choosing PLO 1 and PLO number 4. Like I said, it doesn't matter, you don't have to go chronologically. And the English team has already crosswalked this learning objective, or the program objective, with these two classes. We can find the information directly from English 1301 and 1302, specifically in student learning outcomes 4 and 5. So they're already good to go with that. Now, when we come back here next year, we're going to be looking at the remaining PLOs that they have. And we've just put examples here because even with those teams, we're going to be coming back saying, hey, is there anything like this? Could we use Power BI data, look at retention rates, persistence rates in English classes, you know, from 1302 to a business, or I'm sorry, to a literature class, something like that. But we're going to want to encourage folks to think of different ways to measure. Of course, they can still use that direct course alignment, but we've got all these other options. So this is just a way to visualize what we're doing in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Questions?
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I told those of you that I visited and those that I talked to on the phone. So those that, how many of you, I know Dr. Britton, Lou, and Vashti, right? You all are filling the role of the institutional effectiveness person on your campuses, chasing down folks for SLO data, PLO data, perhaps, and other assessments. Is anybody else that person on your campus? Do you know who that person is on your campus? Does somebody send you an email saying, okay, these are due? No?
Well, we send up, yeah.
You are? Are you the person?
Dallas,
You have somebody?
well, Dallas Lewis, are you still the contact for UP for SLOs and PLOs? Yes.
So, and I talked with him earlier. I am going with Sherell's help, not today, but later. I am going to reach out to who that person is on each campus. So I'll be contacting you all because I want to make sure. I really think that, as I learned this morning and on the task force this summer, like the more individualized conversations to have with the teams, it really helps it make sense. Because every team has different nuances. It's just, so I'm asking in advance for your help on that. If I reach out, maybe you're not the one I need to talk to, but if you know someone I need to talk to, and I'll be communicating with Sherell this all the time because it's otherwise, I mean, we don't want people to think, oh my God, it's assessment time again, and we only think about it twice a year. But it should be meaningful for us, and I think it's going to be really interesting to figure out, like, hey, I didn't know we had, 100 English majors, or we have 20 Mexican American studies students, and what are they interested in going to do after this? So I'll be reaching out to you guys or to your representatives soon. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Give Ann a hand, you guys. Absolutely. I think we have just one more slide here. This is just a different view of the same thing because, some people are visual and they like to see things in different ways, and we're trying to accommodate all of those different learners. So here you see it again, but just in a different way. You see that pharmacy tech program as well as the English program. Same thing, just a different view. And you see what happens in this upcoming academic year and then in academic year 25-26 as well. And you see the different options that the curriculum team can utilize, right? And so we're trying to open that up. And just today, Dan, we were talking to folks and people were like, thank you for this 2 years. Some faculty, some folks that oversee programs, they're doing ACEs, our annual cycle of effectiveness, they're doing SLOs and PLOs. So if we're free to be able to do 2 PLOs in the year instead of doing all of them every year, hopefully that will take a little bit of some of the burden, the cumbersome of just doing all the work. Hopefully that's going to help you guys in the overall process. Questions? Yes.
Are those the standard indirect measures, or is that just
Those are just examples or options, right? Yes, there are many other indirect ways we can assess a program. Yes, absolutely. Any additional questions?
In regards to clarifying the alignment between the PLO that's being assessed, SLO, government information, form of So like two SLOs or could be maybe align a PLO with one SLO.
Yeah, you're using one course that aligns with that
Right.
PLO, yeah, you absolutely can do
Like
that.
for example, if there's a PLO 1 and then SLOs 1 and 2,
Uh-huh.
but if we want to just like PLO 1 with SLO 1 to target that, we'd be okay with that.
Yeah, there definitely you have that option to do that. If it aligns, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is, and you want to say something?
Well, I think we're talking about in health and wellness too, like, if you've got 5 SLOs to stick to the PLO, but one will suffice.
And
Just start with
Okay.
the one, right?
And we do have some maps, some curriculum maps. How many you've done, and it's okay if you haven't. How many you've done curriculum mapping before? And that's where you actually take your courses and you actually map those out to your PLO. Some people have done it, they're really good at it. They've got music, they're on it. And some people say, look, I really don't know how to do this. I need some additional support. So we put some curriculum maps on our strategic planning and assessment website. There are 3 different kinds. And it was one I had, she said, Sherell, this is too complex. This is, no, we're not showcasing this. But we have several, and I think you'll find one that you may like, some additional support or resources. So it's 2 o'clock, and I think the session ends at 2, and I do want to be cognizant of your time. And so with that being said, the only other thing I'll say here is that this session was all about continuous improvement, right, around program assessment. Will you please take 2 minutes to do that survey? Give us feedback because we're always looking to improve. Thank you for being here today. We appreciate your time. We'll set up a web.
I'll send you an email today, but I can't do it.
I have a meeting, so, yeah. Sherell, will these slides be available?
If you check in with the attendance, then I will send you the slides.
And the survey slide will be on there too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll have to look at it. But you gotta, thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Would you like a copy?
So, yeah.
Okay, probably.
No,
Thank you for coming.
Well, I have one question. I think it's.
Yeah, I want to make sure that